your DMR. Okay, so again, some common strategies here. Whenever you're evaluating an expression, we want to take all the variables and replace them with what? Parentheses. That's right. So it would look like this. The opposite of blank squared plus 4 parentheses blank squared minus absolute value of blank times blank quantity squared. A lot going on here for sure. And we just drop in all the values where they're supposed to go. So -3 would go here and here. -2 would go here and here. And of course, whenever we're doing evaluation of an expression like this, and there's tons of operations going on, we definitely don't read from left to right. We read according to PEMDAS. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the work at the parentheses first. So I'm just going to leave this alone for the moment. And then working in the parentheses first. What about that first expression? -2 squared ends up being what? It's 4. Yep. Minus. -3 times -2, of course, is positive 6. And what's the absolute value of positive 6? 6. So 4 minus 6 in the parentheses there. And then maybe we clean that up a little bit and we say that 4 minus 6 is really -2, still being squared, of course. Now we're down to parentheses. So this is kind of a tricky one. We did this yesterday. That first one, the opposite of -3 squared. What does that whole term end up being?
-9.
It's -9. That's right. So -9 plus 4 times, and then of course we already know that -2 in the parentheses squared is +4. We already did one like that earlier. Then we end up with multiplication as our next operation. -9 plus 16 is 7. So again, like always, please look at what you have, look at what I have. Hopefully we have some very similar looking steps, and hopefully we agree on the answer too. Do you guys have any questions about number 1? Ben?
For the test, do we have to do the parenthesis thing for the first part?
Do we have to do the parenthesis thing for the first part? I'm a little... Oh, the blank parentheses?
Yeah.
Well, so like I'm definitely speaking from a place of wanting you to do well. I've seen so many people that like kind of blow that off and end up getting totally messed up on like the negative of a negative of a negative something squared. And I just feel like that's a great first step. It doesn't really add too much to it. You know, am I going to like look through... So I mean, here's where it is. Like, let's say you're doing a concept quiz or a summative test. I'm going to be looking for the answer here for sure. I'm going to be looking that you showed some steps. If you miss the answer and your steps are like really blank, I have nothing to base partial credit on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's really about communication. It's really like, I know that sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but you know how, like let's think about a movie. You guys all like superhero movies, right? A lot of people do. Ben, do you like superhero movies? Cool. So you pretty much know if it's a movie about Superman, like when the credits roll, Superman will be alive and the bad guys will be vanquished in some degree or another, right?
Yeah.
So how much would you like it if you went to a movie and you watched the first 30 seconds and you saw that there was the issue, and then the screen went blank real quick, and then it showed you the final 30 seconds of the movie with Superman standing there triumphantly? Wouldn't you be like, what happened in between? Why is he so happy? You see what I'm saying? And so that's kind of the point of math. It's communication, right? So isn't the right answer to the movie Superman wins? That's the right answer. Don't you care what happens in between? That's the whole point of going to the movie, right?
Yeah.
And so the right answer is 7. It really matters what happened in between. And the way that you show that is your steps. No, I'm serious. Like in math, like if you've been told the lie that all that really matters is the right answer, it's a lie. It's not. That's not the correct focus. The correct focus should be on how in the heck did you even get that? And the steps are the answer to that question. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I hope Superman lives through the movie. I really do. Okay, so number 2, we're trying to solve. Did you guys notice there was an x on both sides of the inequality?
Yeah.
What do we need to do? What would be a solution to that issue?
Subtract x.
Subtract x or?
Add 3x.
We subtracted x yesterday. Let's add 3x today. So if I add 3x to both sides, this gives me a lovely 6 is less than 4x minus 14. what would I do from here if I wanted to get the x all the way by itself? I would add 14. So adding 14 to both sides gives me 20. 20 is less than 4x. And then, of course, my final step would be to divide both sides by 4. And that would give me 5 is less than x. You good with that part? Okay. So now I got on my graph. I got to graph this. What kind of a circle would I put on the 5? Would it be an open circle or a filled-in circle? It would be open. Agreed. So I put an open circle right there on the 5. And the arrow goes which way? It goes to the right. So if you write your inequality like in the non-standard way like this, it's actually kind of backwards. I think this is better to write it as x is greater than 5, so you might want to write it in that standard form. This will help you a little bit with your arrow. We're looking for numbers that are bigger than 5, and so that's why your arrow would go to the right. Okay, so again, like before, if you guys would look at what you have and look at what I have and just do a little comparison, are we on the same page? Any questions? All right, then finally, number 3, graph clearly labeling at least 3 points on the line. What kind of form is this line in? It is in slope-intercept. And what are the two things we got to have to graph any line? Slope and a point. Agreed. So my slope should be pretty straightforward here because I do have slope-intercept form. Well, although it's a little bit strange looking, what would you guys say the slope is?
1 over.
It's -1, and you could write that as -1 over 1. Same thing. I think that'd be a pretty useful thing to write as well. Okay, and then the point on the graph. Remember that a point is always x comma y. What would you guys say the point is on this graph? You got it. 0, 2 is right. I'm always going to graph that point first. So 0, 2 is right there. My slope is down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. So that would be something like this. Down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. Or I could go up 1, left 1. That'd be the same pattern. So then I'd put my points there at the end of those slope marks. And I would do my best to connect with a lovely line with arrows on the end. And there we go. Questions? Callie,
So I got it right, but I figured it out a different way.
how'd you figure it out?
I put numbers in for X.
Okay, so you did a little input-output table.
Yeah.
That's fine. Make sure that you can do this as well.
Yeah.
There will definitely be times when it'll say, hey, find the slope, find the y-intercept, and then graph it. So I think your way is very fine and works great. Just make sure you understand what this means too. Yeah. Anybody else? It's a great question, right? It's like, hey, I think I got this right, but I used a different method. Is it still okay? Awesome. Anybody else? Okay, lovely. We're going to do some work with lines again. Shocker. So if you guys would flip over, we're going to do a little bit of work together. And I'm going to have you guys do this first one. I'm going to have you guys attempt this first one on your own. So please look at our class examples, number 1. We'll try to get as much practicing in as we can today. Here we go. So number 1 says, write the slope-intercept equation of the line graphed below. Please take a moment and try that one. Feel free to work together, work on your own, whatever you feel is best. And we'll get some answers in a minute. All right, so I'd love to hear an answer from you guys first here. Anyone have a suggestion as to what you think an answer for this question could be? What do you think, Noel?
Y equals whatever 3x minus that.
Okay. That's what Noel just said. Well, first of all, do you agree? Anybody disagree? Okay, so Joe, you said, hey, I agree with that, and you had your hand up too. What'd you do? How'd you get that?
So I just started at the -5.
Started at the negative, so right here?
Yep. Or no, on the y
Okay,
axis.
so we started right there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And then I went to just like the next nearest point that intersects with those like grid lines.
yeah, yeah.
So I went up 1 and then over 3.
Up 1, over 3, so to right there?
Yep.
Okay,
And then I obviously knew -5 was a point on the line, so.
Careful, remember a point is always x comma y? It's never just a single number.
So I knew that -5 was the number that intersected the y-intercept.
-5 is the y-intercept. There you go. But I think, shouldn't we say 0 comma -5 is the y-intercept?
You could say that,
Yeah. Okay, and then what about the 1/3? Like, where'd you come up with that?
because it's rise over run, so
Uh-huh.
up 1 over 3.
Okay, so rise 1, run 3. Okay, cool. It's the right answer, isn't it? What do you guys think? Joe did a pretty nice job explaining that. Noel supplied us with a good answer. Do you guys have any questions? We good? Okay, we'll see how you guys do with number 2 then. Check it out. Number 2 says, notice it doesn't specify slope-intercept form. It just says write the equations of lines A and B. Ready to go. Remember last time I gave you some really similar looking lines and I said, what is the slope of those lines? Here I'm asking, what's the equation? So, same kind of lines, different question. Okay, Faith, what do you think about line A? What do you think the equation of that would be?
It would be y equals 2.
Y equals 2. Okay, let's take a minute there. Any disagreement on that? Should you have it close? Or some little detail that's missing maybe? Or is it right on the money? I think it's right on the money. Yep. Where'd you come up with that?
How did I?
Yeah, what were your thoughts?
I saw if it was a vertical or horizontal line, and it was horizontal, so then I went like up 2 on like the y-axis,
Yep.
and I got 2.
But why? Yeah, so I definitely understand your reasoning for the 2, but why was it y equals 2?
Because it was a horizontal line,
And horizontal lines,
equal y.
always just a y, right? Nice. Okay. Does that make sense to you guys? Maybe you're thinking the same kind of stuff? Okay, fair enough. Chase, green line, what do you think?
I said x equals -3.
X equals -3. Okay, what do you guys think about that? Do you guys agree or disagree? Okay, what was your reasoning there?
Well, I just saw that it was on -3 and x. Because it's vertical.
You saw it was on -3, and say, what was the last part again?
Because it's vertical.
And vertical goes with x equals, right? Cool. You guys doing okay? Let me tie this together really quick with yesterday. What if I asked a further question? What if I said, what is the slope of the red line? What would you say? 0. That's right. And what if I asked you for the slope of the green line? What would you say?
Undefined.
That is correct. Slope is undefined. Okay, we good? Good memories? Awesome. Okay, so then number 3, I want to do a little bit of work with you guys. And I think the idea here is I just want to help you remember something because you might have forgotten this. We haven't done a ton with this. So number 3 says, write the point slope equation of the line that has a slope of -2 and passes through the point -3, 1. Hasn't this been the theme of like the better part of our unit? The 2 things you got to have to find a line would be the slope of the line and a point that's on the line, right? Does anyone by any chance remember kind of the basic framework for point slope form, which is what we're asked to do here? Noel.
Isn't it y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1?
So that's not point slope. That is something. What is that?
That's how you find the slope.
That's a slope formula, which actually is really closely related to the thing I'm asking for. Josh, what do you think?
Y minus y1 equals m, which is the slope, parentheses x minus x1 parentheses.
Were you going to say that, Ben?
Yeah.
You're both right. So this is actually just an adaptation, Noel, kind of what you said. You gave the slope formula. This is taking that slope formula and just manipulating it a little bit. So this is point slope form. Let's remind ourselves, what these different pieces mean. So y1 is the y-coordinate of the point. Josh said it well. M is the slope, and x1 is the x-coordinate. And the y and the x, those are just the y and the x variables that always go with a linear equation. Okay, so based on that, the good information we got from these folks, can you guys then take the information about this line and see if you can write the equation of the line? Okay, ready, go. And we'll go from there. Okay, so number 4. Here we go. So number 4 says a line has a slope of -1/4 and passes through the point -8, 5. So question A is really just like what we just did a second ago. So I want to see if you can do the whole thing. Just do A without any extra help from me. See how it goes. Then we'll talk about how we do B as well. Okay? So ready, set, go. Work on 4A. All right, Colton, you have 4A by any chance?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Y minus 5 equals -1/4 x plus 8.
Okay, I think Colton is right on the money. Any questions? Is that the same thing? Oh yeah? Okay, awesome. So I really like point slope form. The reason why I like point slope form, it's really simple. It's just like plug it in, plug it in, plug it in, and you're done. Really not a whole lot of arithmetic to be done. But I know that many of you guys are absolutely in love with slope-intercept form. I'm hoping that you'll be in love with both of them, both point slope and slope-intercept. And slope-intercept is very common, and so part B I think is a useful thing to think about. It says write the slope-intercept equation of the line. So here's what we can do. I can take this, what we just wrote for point slope, and we can basically convert it over to slope-intercept form. Let's remind ourselves that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So essentially what we need to do here is simplify and then solve for y. So Irene, any suggestions on what I could do with the answer for A that would start leading me towards B? What do you see for...
Plug in the slope for M.
I already have it. It's right there. I'm trying to take, so like this is point slope form. I'm trying to take it and convert it into this. I'm trying to make it look like that.
You could isolate the y and add 5 on each side.
I could add 5 on each side. I agree. And I eventually will do that. But I think that's going to be my last step. I think there's going to be another step before that.
You could distribute the negative 1.
Isn't that it? Distribute the -1/4. So remember when we're simplifying, remember how like, I know you guys probably got tired of hearing me say this, but remember how I'd always say, do you see any distributive properties? Any distributive properties anywhere? And you'd be like, yes, there's 2 of them, one right there and one right there. Same idea, right? To simplify and solve this, I want to first look for distributive properties. So let's do that. So I'd get y minus 5 equals -1/4 x. And then what would be the -1/4 times 8? It's -2, 8 over 4, right? Yeah, so which is 2. So it'd be -2. And now I think we'd eventually end up at Irene's, her first idea. I think I'd go +5 to both sides. And when I go +5 to both sides, I end up with y equals -1/4 x plus 3. And there's my beautiful y equals mx plus b format. So you can go between the two pretty easily, right? You can go to point slope form, and then you can do a little distributive property and a solve to get to the slope-intercept form. Both useful. Anyways, Ava, your question? Or are you just resting your arm up there?
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't quite tell. It's all good. Okay, so like I'm always trying to read you guys, and I'm reading that you're doing really well with this.
Thanks.
That's what I'm reading. And who knows, maybe my reading is way off, but just like watching your behavior and seeing your responses and peeking over your shoulders, it seems like you're doing really well. So what I'd like to do is one more question, and then I think I'll just turn you loose on your web assign. So we'll maybe skip a couple of these. So let's look here. We already did one like that. You guys felt like you nailed it. Felt like you nailed that one. I would like for you guys to try. So maybe we'll do 2. I think 3 and 4 are both pretty useful. 3 is really just like what we did a second ago. Let's make sure you can do the whole thing all by yourself. So please do 3A and B, and then I think we'll discuss a little bit with 4, at least have you try that, That'll probably leave us with, I don't know, at least 10 minutes for you to do some WebAssign. So, ready, set, go. 3A and B. All right, let's at least see what we're doing with A. Jaden, what'd you get for A?
I got y minus 5 equals 3, 8, or 3 over 8, and then in parentheses x plus 16.
Okay, that's nice. Nice job. You guys okay with that? 3A? Okay. 3B, looks like you guys are about there. Okay. Coy, 3B. What'd you do?
I did 3 over 8. I distributed that.
Okay. What'd you get when you did that distributive property?
3 over 8x plus 5.
5, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think of that? Disagree. What do you think?
I got, should I show that?
Well, at least for that part. Like, what part do you disagree with?
The plus 5,
Okay, what do you think it should be?
plus 11.
Plus 11. You guys agree with that? Oh, sorry. You guys agree with that? No? Some people disagree with you.
Whoa, whoa,
We haven't done the.
hold on. Oh,
Wait.
Yet, so like,
Yeah, wait.
Wait, no.
So what should that number be?
number B.
6.
But then you add that 5.
But then you add the 5 over, so y equals 3/8
Yeah, that's what I meant.
x plus 11. Okay, so you're giving me a final answer. I was looking for an in-between step.
Oh,
That's all it was. That's all it is.
ooh.
Okay, I think we're good, right? 3/8 x plus 11? Okay. Any questions? So Coy, I think you accidentally said 3 times 2 is 5.
yeah.
Easy to do. Can I give you a true confession here? I'm not kidding. Maybe this will make you feel better. I've been doing math for a really long time, and the other day I said that A times 0 was A. I just got going way too fast and skipped a couple steps, and something didn't seem to make sense. And I'm like, what is the problem? Something is totally wrong here. And I hunted back up through my steps, Ben. I hunted back up through my steps because I communicated fairly clearly. And I'm like, and after a while I was like, oh my goodness, A times 0 is 0, not A. Figured it out. So Coy, it happens to even those of us that it should not be happening to. So don't worry about it. Okay, so then the last one here is 4. And I want to just point this out to you. 4 is a really great question. It kind of ties in nicely with what we've been doing. So I've asked you this question a ton of times. I'm going to ask it at least one more time. What are the 2 things I've got to have to find the equation or graph of a line? What are,
Slope and a point.
slope and a point that's on the line. When you look at number 4, what seems to be missing?
You need a slope.
I don't have a slope. I've got a couple of points there that are on the line, but I do not have a slope yet. What could I use or what could I do, Ava, to help me find this slope that I'm missing?
Use the slope equation. So
Which is slope equals,
y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1.
okay, and we did this yesterday, didn't we? So, Coy, if we were going to do this, what would your y2 need to be? All right, negative 10 minus, then what would be my y1? Ben?
-2.
Negative 2. Be careful with your minus signs there. So there's my change in y. What would be my x2? 9 minus
3.
y, or x1 would be 3. So this ends up being negative 10 plus 2, which is negative 8. 9 minus 3 is 6. So I'm getting negative 4/3. So that, my friends, is my slope. And then if I was going to go ahead and answer this question, writing the point slope equation of the line, which point do I use? Do I use this point here or that point there?
Either one.
You use the first one.
It actually doesn't matter. If they're both on the think about it, if both those points are on the line, then either one of them should work. So this one, you could actually have two very different looking answers. You could have y plus 2 equals negative 4/3 times x minus 3. That would be if you used point number 1. If you used point number 2, it would be y plus 10 equals negative 4/3 times x minus 9. Can you imagine? Like, what if this was question number 4 on some concept quiz, and, Whit had this answer, and Mariah had that answer, and I gave them both full credit. Can you see why somebody would be like, whoa, hold on, those are two totally different answers. How can they both get full credit? It's actually the same line. How could I see that those really are the same line? What could I do?
Graph it.
I could graph it, or put it into what?
Slope-intercept.
Put it in slope-intercept, and it should be exactly the same in slope-intercept. Either one of those would be good strategies, but they'd both be correct. Okay, hey, I'm done. If you guys want, grab your computers or phones or whatever, if you want to get a jump start on some WebAssign. I know there's one due tonight, because I saw a couple of folks have started turning those in. So continue to work on those, or work to get a little bit ahead.
If we forgot to set dinner notes, can you
Yes, just let me know if you do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would say for anything that's late,